Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Plus tôt aujourd'hui, les États-Unis ont imposé des droits de douane de 25 % sur les produits d'acier et d'aluminium du Canada. Ces tarifs, comme on a toujours dit, sont totalement injustifiés, injustes et franchement déraisonnables. As has been the case since the American president first threatened to put tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States, our sole focus is to stand up for Canadian interests, Canadian jobs, and Canadian workers. It has been extremely heartening to see Canadians from across the country rally to this cause in defense of Canada. I would also like to thank the premiers from across the country for their work on these important matters. I know Canadians are proud to see their governments stick up for their respective provinces and territories, and also, of course, stick up for the whole country. Together, we will do what we must do to protect Canada's economy. With these most recent tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, the U.S. administration is once again inserting disruption and disorder into an incredibly successful trading partnership and raising the costs of everyday goods for Canadians and American households alike. We will not stand idly by while our iconic steel and aluminum industries are being unfairly targeted. Today, I am announcing that the Government of Canada, following a dollar-for-dollar approach, will be imposing, as of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March 13, 2025, 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States. This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion. The list of additional products affected by counter tariffs includes computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products as examples. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th. In addition, we learned yesterday that the United States tariffs would also be imposed on steel and aluminum content in certain derivative products. The government is currently assessing this aspect and may impose, of course, further tariffs in response to this measure as well. Aujourd'hui, j'annonce que le gouvernement du Canada, suivant une approche dollar pour dollar, imposera à partir de minuit et 1 minute demain, le 13 mars 2025, des droits de douane réciproques de 25 % sur 29,8 milliards de dollars d'importations supplémentaires en provenance des États-Unis. Cela comprend des produits en acier d'une valeur de 12,6 milliards de dollars et des produits en aluminium d'une valeur de 3 milliards de dollars, ainsi que des produits américains supplémentaires d'une valeur de 14,2 milliards de dollars pour une valeur totale de 29,8 milliards de dollars. La liste des produits supplémentaires concernés par les contre-tarifs comprend des outils, des ordinateurs, des équipements de sport et des produits en fonte. Ces droits de douane s'ajoutent aux droits de douane réciproques de 25 % appliqués par le Canada sur 30 milliards de dollars d'importations en provenance des États-Unis en réponse aux droits de douane américains imposés, comme vous savez, le 4 mars. Hier, nous avons également appris que les droits de douane américains seraient également imposés sur l'acier et l'aluminium contenus dans certains produits dérivés. Le gouvernement évalue actuellement cet aspect et pourra imposer évidemment d'autres contre-tarifs en réponse. Our government is also taking steps to mitigate the impact of these countermeasures on Canadian workers and businesses by considering requests for exceptional relief through the existing remissions process. We understand that these are challenging, uncertain times for Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. That's why we've deployed measures to support workers and businesses. Export Development Canada, the Business Development Bank of Canada, and Farm Credit Corporation are there to help business owners find new markets for their products and access financing to help with liquidity crunches. We have also introduced temporary flexibilities to the Employment Insurance Work-Sharing Program, helping affected businesses keep more employees on the payroll in the event of a slowdown. Notre gouvernement utilisera tous les outils à sa disposition pour soutenir nos entreprises et nos travailleurs en ces temps difficiles. D'autres mesures pour aider les travailleurs et les entreprises pourraient être annoncées au besoin, et je suis très encouragé encore une fois par la volonté des provinces et des territoires aussi de travailler avec nous afin d'appuyer les secteurs économiques dans leur région. Notre gouvernement continuera de travailler sans relâche afin de convaincre l'administration de M. Trump d'abandonner entièrement ses droits de douane totalement injustifiés. We will use every tool at our disposal to defend Canadian jobs and Canadian businesses and support workers through these challenging times. And with that, I'm happy to pass the microphone to my colleague, Mélanie Joly. Mélanie.
Yes, merci, Dominic. Thank you all for joining us today. You've just heard the actions we're taking from my colleague and friend, Dominic LeBlanc. Canada is holding strong and will continue to do so together. Well, make no mistake, though, this is going to be a day-to-day fight. This is now the second round of unjustified tariffs leveled against Canada and Canadian goods. The excuse for the first round was exaggerated claims about our border. We addressed all the concerns raised by the U.S., and in return, they agreed to temporarily abide by the free trade agreement President Trump signed himself with Canada. The latest excuse is national security, despite the fact that Canadian steel and aluminum add to America's security, not take away from it. All the while, there is a threat to further and broader tariffs on April 2nd still looming. The excuse for those tariffs shifts every day. The only constant in this unjustified and unjustifiable trade war seems to be President Trump's talks of annexing our country through economic coercion. Yesterday, he called our border a fictional line and repeated his disrespectful 51st state rhetoric. Well, Canadians have made it very clear that we will not back down and we will not give in to this coercion. À mes concitoyens canadiens, je tiens à vous rappeler que nous n'avons rien fait pour justifier les actions du président Trump contre notre pays. Et nous n'avons rien fait pour justifier ses attaques contre notre économie et notre identité. Nous ferons cependant tout pour riposter. Et nous n'allons jamais négocier contre nous-mêmes. Nous continuerons à être solidaires et votre gouvernement sera là pour continuer à vous soutenir. Entre-temps, on continue d'acheter canadien et entre-temps, on continue de soutenir notre monde. Maintenant, je pense à notre monde au Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, sur la Côte-Nord, à Sorel. I'm thinking about the people in Hamilton, in also the Sioux, in Regina, in Kitimat, people working in the steel and aluminum sectors. Pour nos travailleurs et travailleuses dans l'industrie de l'acier et de l'aluminium, nous sommes ici pour vous. Nous avons pris des mesures fortes en 2018 lorsque le président Trump nous a imposé des droits de douane et nous continuerons à le faire. Les droits de douane sur l'acier et l'aluminium étaient injustifiés en 2018 et ils demeurent injustifiés aujourd'hui. I now would like to talk to the American people, to our American friends. I want you to remember this. Canada is your best friend, best neighbor, and best ally. Many of us have family on both sides of the border. Canada is also America's best and biggest customer. We buy more American goods than the UK, France, China, and Japan altogether. together, we have spent generations building a relationship between our countries that is the envy of the world. Canada is not the one driving up the cost of your groceries or of your gasoline or any of your construction. Canada is not the one putting your jobs at risk. Canada is not the one that is ultimately starting this war. President Trump's tariffs against you are causing that. And there are no winners in a trade war. American friends, help us help you. Please help us end these tariffs as quickly as possible. And please talk to your elected representatives at the federal, at the state and municipal level. Please talk to your governors, to your senators, to your House representatives, and to your mayors. Send a message to the White House. Working together, Canada and the U.S. have built a strong enough economy, and working together, we can bring down inflation and bring stability to the markets. To my European colleagues, we will work together to put pressure to end these tariffs against you too. À mes collègues en Europe et dans le monde entier, je dis depuis longtemps que le Canada est le canari dans la mine. Que si les États-Unis peuvent nous faire ça à nous, leur allié et ami le plus proche, aucun d'entre vous en être exempt. Aujourd'hui, ces droits de douane injustifiés ont été imposés à vous aussi. Alors, travaillons ensemble pour les faire lever. Travaillons ensemble pour encourager les Américains à faire pression sur leurs représentants élus. Ensemble, nous avons réussi à lutter contre les droits de douane sur l'acier et l'aluminium en 2018 et nous pouvons le faire à nouveau. After this, I'm heading to the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting in Charlevoix, Quebec. I'll be meeting with Secretary Rubio. I will also be meeting with my European and British counterparts. In every single meeting, I will raise the issue of tariffs to coordinate our response with the Europeans and to put pressure on the Americans. This is much more than about our economy. It is about the future of our country. Canadian sovereignty and identity are non-negotiable. Canadians have had enough, and we are a strong country. We'll defend our sovereignty, we'll defend our jobs, and we'll defend our way of living. And we will do so all together every single day and one day at a time. Thank you.
Bon matin tout le monde, bonjour tout le monde. Nous vivons l'un des moments les plus sérieux dans l'histoire du Canada. Aujourd'hui, les États-Unis poursuivent leur assaut tarifaire contre le Canada avec l'imposition de droits de douane de 25% sur notre acier et notre aluminium. Ces droits de douane sont non seulement inacceptables, ils sont injustifiés. Ils auront un impact économique négatif considérable, comme le disaient mes collègues, des deux côtés de la frontière. As we have always said to our American friend, tariffs on Canada is a tax on American. And as I've seen someone yesterday saying, these tariffs are bringing the Wild West on the factory floors across North America. This needs to stop. This is hurtful for workers. This is hurtful for industry. This is hurtful for the competitiveness of North America. Canadian steel and aluminum are essential for North America. And we live in a time, as my colleagues have said, that where you see a nexus between economic security and national security. We need to preserve what we have achieved over generations. From energy to defense, to automotive, shipbuilding, and countless other sectors of our economy, Canadian steel and aluminum fuel North American supply chains. Actually, I was with the association representing aluminum. So one job in the United States, one job in Canada in the primary aluminum sector support 13 jobs in the United States. That's the ratio 1 to 13. This is how integrated we are when it comes to steel and aluminum in North America. But let's be clear. This is more than just about supply chains and big industry. This is about people. This is about our workers. This is about families and community all across this country and across the United States. They are the ones paying the price. This uncertainty is creating anxiety across North America, and we need to work together to stop that. Les secteurs de l'acier et d'aluminium représentent plus de 150 000 travailleurs partout au Canada. Chaque jour, ces travailleurs aident à bâtir notre grand pays. C'est pourquoi aujourd'hui, devant ces tarifs injustifiés, on réplique avec des contre-mesures robustes, comme l'a indiqué mon collègue, le ministre LeBlanc. Ces tarifs vont avoir un impact direct sur les différents secteurs de l'économie des deux côtés de la frontière. That's why today we're hitting back against these unjustified U.S. tariffs. We're not alone in doing that, as Minister Joly said. The European Union has reacted. Our friends and allies in Japan have reacted. The world is reacting against these unjustified tariffs. But let me be clear. This is not something that we want to do. This is not something that we like to do. But it's something that, unfortunately, we are being forced to do in order to protect our way of living in this country and to protect North America. Make no mistake, today's decision by the U.S. will increase costs for consumers. Mr. Joly was right. When you're talking to our American friends, we need to make them clear. This is going to increase the price of construction. This is going to increase the price of car. This is going to increase the price in the defense industry. It will put thousands of jobs at risk, and I would add unnecessarily. And it will weaken North America's economic and national security. My dear friends, whether you're in Canada or in the United States, we cannot let uncertainty become the new certainty in North America. That cannot stand. That will make us less competitive. That's going to weaken us, and that's going to affect our economic security and ultimately our national security. Ce climat d'incertitude doit évidemment cesser. Et ce n'est pas seulement moi qui le dis, mais je vous invite à regarder les déclarations du PDG de Ford, du PDG d'Alcoa récemment, qui a parlé de chaos et de coûts à l'intérieur de différents secteurs de l'industrie. Demandez aux gouverneurs, aux maires, aux associations d'affaires au sud de la frontière, demandez à Wall Street, regardez l'impact des marchés financiers. Les marchés ont parlé, les tarifs vont faire mal à l'économie américaine. As we have always said, we will continue to stand up for Canada by supporting and defending our workers and our industries, and I would say our way of living as Canadian. But we also need to change our attitude. We need to change our posture, and we need to change our way of doing things in this country. This needs to be more than just a moment. It needs to be a movement to become more resilient in this country, a movement to become more confident in this country, a movement to become more ambitious in this country, and a movement to be more Canadian in this country. There's many ways for us to do that. I've said many times to Canadians, the best way to do that, the biggest power we have is our purchasing power. As my colleague have said, we can start to buy local. We can buy Canadian. Because after all, we're the largest customer to the United States of America. We will diversify our industry. We will diversify our exports. But we can also choose to buy local. That's going to make a difference to the small and medium-sized business across our country. Tomorrow, Minister LeBlanc and I are planning to join Premier Ford in Washington to convey these messages as forcefully as Canadians can do. In conclusion, let's stop with this tariff nonsense. And let's work together to make North America more competitive, more innovative, and more resilient. Our people on both sides of the border expect nothing less from us. Merci tout le monde. À vous.
Thank you, Ministers. We do have many more, I think 10 questions in the room, so we may not get to the online, but we will try. We'll start with Valérie Gamache from Radio-Canada. One question, one follow-up, please.
Bonjour à vous trois. Hier, il y a eu beaucoup de bruit avec l'intervention notamment de Doug Ford dans le dossier. On se retrouve en pleine période de transition entre M. Trudeau et M. Carney. Est-ce que l'absence d'un répondant direct à Donald Trump actuellement nuit au Canada?
In English and French, please. Tu le prends ou je prends?
Répondant direct, on vient de répondre. Vous avez vu une réponse très directe ce matin. Le gouvernement prend ses responsabilités comme il se doit. Vous avez vu ce matin une réponse ferme, cohérente. C'est pas une surprise. On avait On avait dit qu'on allait répondre d'une façon mesurée, proportionnelle. C'est ça que nous avons fait aujourd'hui. Alors, le gouvernement continue de prendre ses responsabilités et on va continuer de le faire.
Moi, ce que je dirais aussi, c'est que le plus important présentement, c'est qu'il y ait une unité au sein du Canada. Parce qu'on sait que les Américains vont être divisés. Et donc, basé là-dessus, on va continuer à démontrer du leadership comme on le fait au niveau fédéral. On va soutenir aussi les premiers ministres qui démontrent du leadership ensemble. Parce qu'au final, ce qu'on doit faire, c'est faire reculer les Américains. So what I would say in English is right now the most important thing is Canada's unity. Because what we know is that the Americans themselves are divided. And so what you're seeing today is leadership on the part of the federal government, and also we'll continue to work with the premiers that are showing leadership as well, because we need to fight back against this nonsense.
Et je comprends que demain, vous partez à Washington, M. LeBlanc et Champagne. C'est quoi l'objectif de la rencontre là-bas? Est-ce que c'est de réouvrir et de devancer la négociation de la CEUM? Est-ce que ou on est dans régler la question très ici maintenant là?
Je peux peut-être débuter, François-Philippe, ajouter, non, on ne va pas renégocier ou même commencer une discussion sur la question de renégocier le CEUM. Premièrement, il n'y a personne qui a avancé cette idée-là. C'est une responsabilité nationale. Il y a une révision dans l'entente qui se fera en 2026. Si des partis veulent avancer ces dettes-là, mais ils le feront. Demain,